Your attention, please. This is the officer of the watch speaking from the bridge. At the end of this announcement, we will be sounding our ship's whistle. We recommend to our guests on the open decks to cover your ears.
Welcome back to DCL Podcast fans. We are on the Disney Magic, the oldest and the best ship in the Disney fleet.
Definitely the best.
With me is Ottawake and Andrew. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
We are sitting in Prelude's Bar, getting ready to have dinner. It's our sea day 2. We'll talk about some of the stuff getting on here, but I thought on our first episode we'd talk a little bit about what we did before we got back on the Magic. It was we came over to Europe. This is third time's a charm, is what we've seen a lot of people's shirts saying as far as like they booked this 3 years ago and then that one canceled and last year's canceled and finally this one went because of all the COVID stuff. And we booked this one twice, so we can't say it was the third time because we had Alaska booked last year, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
but this was definitely our 2020 trip rescheduled.
Yeah, and a lot of people kind of doing that revenge travel and having a good time over here in Europe. It's been packed, it seems like, in all the different places that we've been to. But we took off. We left on Iceland Air, which I think is still my favorite way to get to Europe. What do you think, Wake?
It is mine too. And what I appreciate about it is, as weird as it sounds, that with the timing of the flights and the way that you connect, we feel better when we get here. And I have absolutely no idea why, but that's just based on anecdotal personal experience.
Yeah, and watching the mess that it was for a lot of people trying to come over here 2 days prior.
We want nothing to do with the East Coast.
Yeah, no offense. No offense to everybody.
No offense, but...
Yeah, they had like bad weather up and down the East Coast, so like tons of people that were connecting in flights to go to Europe through Charlotte, JFK. Christy had some problems getting up to her flight out of Orlando and leaving on JFK to get to Rome, so a lot of people were under a lot of stress, even though they had 2 days to go before the ship sailed, so... maybe word to the wise, you always say like flying the day before. If you're going to Europe, maybe do it a couple days before because there was because it's so packed, a lot of the flights were full, and they were having a hard time rescheduling people at time to get to, especially Rome is really tough. Like
there's not a lot of flight options, I think.
Well, you've got to go someplace and then go to Rome. So you're either going to the East Coast into Rome, or a lot of people are going to even to the East Coast and then to London, like on British or something like that, and then down to Rome. So it's just...
Right.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of direct flights from the U.S. to Rome.
Right. But anyway, so we took Iceland Air, went into Munich. First time going to Munich. What did you think of Munich? Well, it's actually the second time. The first time we stayed there. What did you think of Munich, Andrew?
It was definitely pretty cool. It was, to an extent, just another big city, but it was definitely cool experiences, good food. Fun time. We
walked around a little bit, and actually, after being up all day, the best our way to kind of strategize it is just stay up the whole day.
Stay up,
and
fight through.
It's
gonna be painful.
It's gonna hurt. So we went for a nice long walked all the way around Munich, and then found a beer garden that was near the Munich Hauptbahnhof, which is the main train station downtown Munich, and made our kids eat German food underneath the trees. What'd you think of it?
It was pretty good.
Although you had some funky sauce on your...
Yeah, Andrew made a bad choice.
Yeah.
It was...
Well, but you don't know. That's what you do. You make the choice, and you're like, I think I won't get that next time.
Yeah. It looked more like a barbecue sauce on his pasta.
Oh, wow.
And it was cold.
And it was cold. It is cold. But the sausages were amazing. The pretzels...
Pretty good.
Yeah, the pretzels were pretty good, too.
Size of his head.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Yeah.
Fries, sausages...
And big beers.
Big beers.
Yeah, so that was Munich, and from there, we did the what am I looking for? The family vacation where we got the family truckster just like Clark Griswold, and
we did
headed out the next day, which we wanted to go to Salzburg and spend some time in the Salzburg area to see a salt mine, and then also, who is a big F1 fan here?
That would have to be me.
That would have to be you, and the headquarters. Well, I'm not sure if the headquarters is there, but the company headquarters for Red Bull is in the Salzburg area.
It is.
Yeah, and how is Red Bull kind of competing on the? Are they the number 1 or number 2 team this year on the F1 circuit?
Probably right now. They're the reigning, drivers champions, so probably currently number 1.
Yeah.
So we went to the Hangar 7 Red Bull Museum on Andrew's 16th birthday.
Pretty cool to go and see that. And what's super cool, it's free.
It was free. Yeah, it was awesome. And it's really cool. Right by the airport, and it's I think it's worth a stop. Even if you're I'm not super into F1, but I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah. So it's the two kind of modern buildings, and one of them was where they're actually doing the work on all the airplanes and everything that they have. But the other one is a museum. They actually have, I think it's like a 1-star Michelin restaurant there, actually, believe it or not. They have a pretty good restaurant. So a lot of people talk about, like, it's pretty amazing to eat there if you want to. That wasn't really on our agenda.
No.
But,
It was sort of in between meals when we got there. So.
yeah, but they've got like a pretty good building where they've got some of the flying Red Bull aircraft that they
there's
use.
airplanes and motorcycles and cars, and
Yeah,
it was cool.
A bunch of the old F1 cars. What was probably the coolest F1 car that they had there? Do you know? Would you think?
I mean, they had Sebastian Vettel's 2013 Drivers' Championship winning car.
Yeah, so nothing new, but it was cool to see. And I was surprised at how small they were. I thought they were a lot bigger when you see them on TV.
They're definitely, I mean, from the camera angles, look bigger on TV and have gotten bigger over time, but not as big as expected.
Right.
So from there, we decided we were kind of going back and forth. I was trying to find an Airbnb in Salzburg to stay in, and nothing was like really sticking. And it's expensive if you want to stay in the Old Town area, and I wasn't sure how many people were going to be there. And it's not huge, but it can be really packed with people sometimes, and so we weren't sure if we really wanted to spend the money to stay there. And so kind of just playing around, there's another area called Hallstatt, and then I found this other little town called Manzi, which had this great Schloss old
really
hotel. Cool. And it was only 20 minutes from Salzburg, so we're like, well, let's do something completely different. Let's get out of the bubble of Salzburg. So we booked this Schloss Hotel Manzi, and it was this old hotel. What did you think of it, Andrew?
It was pretty cool. It was nice.
Yeah.
Good breakfast.
Yeah.
Good breakfast, yes. And like we had the windows open and like woke up every day to church bells ringing, and there was a like kids music school next door. So our second morning at breakfast, we sat outside and listened to the kids playing, playing music. It was really cool. Just really cool.
Okay, now I feel like a jerk because those people just got engaged.
Oh.
That is awesome. That's super cool. Anyways.
Thank you for waiting.
Oh, no, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Actually,
Thank you.
Sir,
Perfect.
it's Tanqueray.
Thank you.
It's the best seller, actually.
Exactly. 6610.
6610.
Thank you so much. Anyway, so we stayed there, and it wasn't like little kids. It was like middle school kids and maybe even
Middle school,
older.
high school.
Yeah, so it was like really good brass music, kind of like alpine sort of brass band music and everything like that. So you're like listening
We
to that.
guessed French horn. We don't really know.
Yeah. Well, French horn and tubas and everything else. It was kind of so.
Yeah.
But the breakfasts were cool. Well, the only breakfast that they had an open mojito, not mojito. What did they have in the morning? Mimosa bar. It was like, so have as many mimosas as you wanted. Which we didn't. But
we did not. No, not when you're going to be in the car.
Yeah, but good breakfast. What was your favorite thing at breakfast, sir?
They had a really good crepe, I would have to say. That would probably have to be it.
Yeah, it was kind of an apple strudel crepe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the fruit was good. The coffee was good.
Yeah.
The cheese was very good.
The cheese was good.
Oh, and the orange juice. The orange juice was tasty.
All of the little pastry things were
Excellent.
really good.
Favorite was probably the Nutella.
Oh.
It was like fresh homemade Nutella.
Yeah.
In a little jar.
Yeah.
Yogurt and like make your own muesli.
Uh-huh.
I like that.
They had fresh jam that they'd made there.
Although Andrew and I each had an apricot, we decided we weren't really a fan. Although that seems to be something that
Everyone else is.
everyone else is, but not, Anyway.
Anyways, all right. So the next day, we went to, after Hangar 7 and hanging out in Monzi that night, we went to the salt mine over in Berchtesgaden. Berchtesgaden's famous for the Eagle's Nest. If you're a World War II history fan, you can go and visit that. We weren't going to do that this time. We did it the last time we were here. So we went to the salt mine, which I think it's, Wake and I had been on it before. What did you think of it again?
I enjoyed it. It's super cool. Not for the claustrophobic, not for
People who think too much about where they are.
right, which is why people are claustrophobic, I guess. But no, definitely. I mean, you're well underground and you're riding a little train to get there. But once you get, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really well done. It's all in German, but they give you, if you speak whatever language you speak, they kind of give you like this little headset thing, and then the guide will press a button, and when he starts talking, it'll start playing for you to in whatever language that you're listening or whatever language you speak.
16, 20 different languages.
Right.
You can, yeah.
And there's probably about 7 or 8 different stops, and you get to go down the slide. What do you think of the slides?
So it was pretty fun.
Yeah. And they don't actually use these slides anymore, but it's the way the workers used to move
Used
from
to,
one
yeah.
level to the next. It's
So the mine is 500 years old.
yeah. Think of that. 500. They were celebrating their 500th year anniversary.
Right. So I mean, there's one thing. It's one thing to be underground like that when it's 2022 and there's electricity and there's toilets and there's just all of the things. But I mean, I can't even imagine 500 years ago what it was like.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
What'd you think of the mine?
It was pretty fun. It was interesting to learn about, I guess, the techniques and how they
Yeah, I
did
thought so
everything.
too.
Yeah, so they kind of talk about how, because it's still a working mine, so they talk about how they're doing it today, but then and as they kind of take you through that, they show you how they used to do it back
Right.
in the day, so it was pretty
So
interesting.
I will also say, when we were here in 2014 at the salt mine, Steve and I bought a little, like kind of a small bottle of, or, shaker of salt from the salt mine. Just, we'll buy this, we'll try it out. And we love it. Like, we put it on grilled veggies, we put it on steak, we put it on all kinds of stuff. And so when we were there this time, we bought 2 huge bottles of salt because we're not sure when we're going to be back. We want to make sure we have enough.
Yeah, I found you can get it online, but like you have to order it through Amazon, so some person actually goes and buys it or something like that,
Right.
and they list it on Amazon for like
Or
a
like-
ridiculous amount of money, so
The TSA is going to think, what are these people doing with this, like, massive gallons of salt in their suitcase?
Yeah. So we did the salt mine in the morning, and then we took off. And why am I totally drawing a blank? We went to Salt Spring that afternoon. So wandered around downtown, the old town, the Altstadt.
Walked up to the castle.
Walked up to the castle. There's a couple different tours that you can do there. I made the kids do it the opposite way. We hiked up, and then we took the funicular down, which I think most people would probably do it the other way. What do you think, Andrew?
It was quite the workout in the very hot,
It was hot.
sweaty heat
It was hot.
up the steep hill.
But after a couple days of just sitting around eating German food and everything else, it was good to get a little
was
bit of
good,
workout.
yeah.
You know what would have been even better, though?
What's
Riding up on the funicular.
Anyways.
And we sat there and we had a drink and watched the pretty view. And
We got super lucky because the next day was sort of cloudy and rainy, but our
Yeah,
day
it was
was like
gorgeous.
it was blue skies and just amazing views of the Alps, and
1,000 degrees.
it was, but not when we were sitting in the shade.
yeah,
1,000 degrees when we were walking up the hill for sure.
right.
1,000
Anyways,
at least.
Anyways, so we visited the old town, and then from there we went back to Monzi that night, had a good Italian meal downtown Monzi, and from there we drove down to Venice the next day, which we both, Anawake and I, really wanted to see. We got there just in time to head out in the evening or late afternoon, wander around St. Mark's Square a little bit, get some dinner, and take the Vaporetto, and then back to the hotel. What was your thoughts about Venice? Because I guess we know we love it, but what were your thoughts about Venice?
It was definitely a cool town, completely different from other places we've been, with all the canals and just different, I guess, architecture and stuff. The food was definitely very good and enjoyable. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and the lighting was amazing that night.
Yeah, we were on the Vaporetto back to the, it was like a little like transportation hub with like buses and the train and the Vaporettos and all sorts of stuff kind of comes together. And there was a big parking garage there, so we had driven in and parked there. So when we were on the way back, just as the sun was setting, and it was the sky was amazing and the light was amazing on the buildings, and it's just such a cool spot.
Right. Well, from there we went down to Rome, where we were going to meet the ship and everything like that. Thank you so much, Irina.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Are you good with drinks?
Yes.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
So we get down to Rome, got there a little bit later than we thought we were going to.
Well,
We'll go into all the specifics of it, but there was an accident on the freeway which kind of slowed us down. And hindsight being 2020, we won't go into all that, but I think we should have just taken the train from Venice down to Rome, but money-wise, it was about the same to just keep the car, and ease-wise, it was actually easier to keep the car. It just took
Right.
us a little longer than we thought it was going to. But we got down to Rome in time. The Bragas were there, and it was pretty hot, I guess, during the day as they were kind of touring around with Adventures by Disney. By the time we got down there and were having dinner at 7 o'clock at night, it was very pleasant sitting
nice.
outside.
Yeah, so we're glad we didn't get there earlier.
I know. So after dinner, we walked down and got a great shot of the Colosseum at night when it was all lit up. And just,
Yep.
Rome, I will be honest, I said this many times between Anawake and I, is like not a city that I was dying to go to. But after I went there, 4 years ago. After we went there 4 years ago, it's a city that I really love. It's a great city. So much history.
So much history.
People are super friendly.
It's
and
amazing people.
good food and great coffee if you like coffee. So there you go, Rome. And from there, I guess we got onto the ship, and we'll pick it up from there on a different snippet. But super easy for us getting on the ship. Took us about an hour to go from Rome on out here, and pretty quickly through, because we had everything downloaded. I guess that would be the one thing if you're coming to Europe anytime soon. Make sure if they're still doing COVID protocols, make sure you have everything downloaded on your phone or paper copies, because the Wi-Fi at the port didn't work very good. Luckily, we've got cell service, so we were able to just download it quickly. We bypassed tons of people that were struggling with the Wi-Fi to get the documents that they needed.
Right.
So pretty quickly for us, 15 minutes about for the testing, and we were cleared to sail and on the ship. And back in the Disney Magic, what do you think about the Magic there, Andrew?
Pretty fun boat to be on.
It is a fun
Ship.
boat to be on.
Ship, boat, same thing.
You're not
Anyways,
taking yourself too seriously. It's a boat.
yeah, exactly. Anyways, well, it's good to be back on the Magic, our favorite ship for sure, right there with the Wonder. So with that being said, I guess we'll just finish it up tonight, and we'll be back with another snippet a little bit later. So goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Well, hello, DCL podcast fans. We are sailing away from the port of Hanya, and I've got Wake with me. How you doing today, Wake?
Good.
Kind of
Hello.
kind of a special day for you. Why is that?
It is a special day for me. So my first big solo adventure in my growing up years was the summer between my sophomore and junior year in high school. I left on my 16th birthday to come and be an AFS exchange student here in Greece. And I lived with a fabulous family here on the island of Crete. In a town called Castelli, which is like the very western end of the island.
And when they first released these Greek Isle cruises 3 years ago, we were like, should we go? And then I think you looked at it and you saw that it was stopping here in Hanya, and you that was it.
And it was the original booking was stopping in Hanya, and it was going to be my birthday, and I felt like that was sort of a sign that it was time, since it's been. Now that it's 2022, it's been exactly 30 years since I've been back here, so it was clearly time.
Definitely. And what was it like being back here? Does it look familiar?
It's cool. Yes, it's totally familiar. I mean, it's been a long time, but it's totally familiar. Like it makes me happy that I can read some of the signs still, and that I like the vocabulary that's kind of come back. So when I was on exchange, the family that I lived with had a daughter who was roughly my age, and then a son who was a few years younger, and he was learning English in school, but was still young or whatever. So he and I made workbooks for each other, and I made him English workbooks, and he made me Greek workbooks. And so I did learn quite a lot, and it was really interesting just being immersed in a language that you absolutely knew nothing about. And the first couple of weeks, it just sounded like gibberish. And then I started to be able to tell that there were words. And then I started to be able to pick out some of the words. And then I could tell that they were talking about me. The progression was kind of cool. And it's cool to be back here. It was cool to be back in Greece yesterday too. And to still be able to pick out some of those words all these years later. It's like, that's why I can't remember what I need at the grocery store, I guess, because I can still read the signs in Greece. That's taking up the memory space.
Exactly. So, and it was kind of cool when you get off the bus today. We had a Greek bus driver, obviously, that took us to our port excursion and back and everything like that. And you said goodbye, and he just got excited.
Yeah. I said goodbye and thank you in Greek, and he was like, oh, like he got all, he got all excited. It was cute.
Because he's used to the rest of us knuckleheads getting on and off the bus that don't know how to say anything. So.
It's not exactly a common language.
No, but it's been beautiful. I can honestly say I was really looking forward. I love the Mediterranean, sailing around the Mediterranean, the waters and everything like that, but I was really excited to see the Greek Isles. And I didn't realize how friendly the people. I shouldn't say I didn't realize, but the people are so friendly here. All the both the stops that we've had so far. I know tomorrow we're going to Athens, which is a big city, and big cities are big cities, right?
Athens is a big city. If you're going to come to Greece, you need to make a stop there. You need to see the history, and then get out of town. Get to the islands. That's the beauty. That's the people. The water. The people. That's what you need to see.
So we're going to do a huge show. Well, I don't know if it's a huge show, but we're definitely going to do a show with Christy and probably bring Anthony on too, and we're going to talk about some of the port excursions we did. So our little snippets is not going to be quite as... this is day 5 or day 4, and we're finally getting to our second snippet. It's been a busy cruise.
Yeah,
I mean, that is one thing about coming over to the Mediterranean and doing Europe is these cruises are like go, 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 go,
It's
go.
a working vacation.
It is a working vacation. It's fun, and I think we've got a good pace going for this one as far as what we're doing. But it's definitely a little bit different than going to the other cruises that we've done, especially like if you get out of the Caribbean and everything like that, which I think is more ship focused. We've done some things on the ship. We went to one of the comedian shows, and tonight we're going to try and do 80s trivia and see what we remember from the 80s when it comes to music and everything. Oh, it's 80s music trivia, so
Right.
see what we can remember. But, you know, some of the stuff that's on the ship is not really our focus. Like, we got back and they had Buzz Lightyear playing, and we could have made it, but we'd have been all sweaty and gross.
And you just kind of need some time to not have any place to be, because it is vacation.
Right, it is vacation also. So our what we've done the last 2 nights is we got back and just, you know, kind of rinsed off a little bit and came up to Signals, had a drink, and just chilled out and watched the sail away, which is what we're doing tonight, which has really been nice. Let's talk quick about the restaurants. I want to touch on something. Ed from the show, good friend of the show, Ed, I was texting with him, and the food on this cruise has been amazing.
Yes, definitely.
And we did Pala one night, thanks to Chris and the concierge. Very gracious host, invited.
It was lovely.
Because Lisa and you share the same birthday, and it's Andrew's birthday a couple days prior, so they shared their suite to bring us up, and we had Palo up there, which was just amazing. But I'm gonna be honest, the food in the regular restaurants has been just as on par with what we had on Palo, isn't it?
It's great, yeah.
And talking to Ed, why I brought that up is he said that they have a different, I can't find the word for it now, vendor for food over here. And the food to me is like just the hash browns that in the morning at Cabanas are like, you can tell it's like real potatoes. And unfortunately in America we get a lot of processed stuff. And so if you want like real potatoes kind of fried up in that hash brown thing versus like that McDonald's taste, which McDonald's is fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Because we don't eat that at home either, so I kind of enjoy that too.
But I gotta say, the food has been amazing. Any thoughts, Wade?
Yep, no, I totally agree.
Okay, totally agree with that. Let's talk a little bit about our stateroom. Do you think it's been worth having a balcony on this cruise?
Absolutely.
Why?
Yeah, because it's nice to be able to sit out there, and there's a lot to see.
Yeah, even on our sea day, the water is so amazingly blue that we just sat out there and just kind of watched the water go by. But pulling into each one of the ports and in the morning having that like little bit of extra space with the door open as we're getting ready before we head on an excursion is nice. And then in the evenings as well, before we just left here on this port, before we came up here
to be able to open up the door and have the breeze and nice.
So if you can do it, I think a balcony is worth it over here. Do you need it? No, because just like everything else, there's like so many places. You can be at deck 4, we're up at deck 9 right now, and you can really take in the scenery that way as well. So don't let that preclude you, because I know that these sailings can be pretty expensive that way. What else should we talk about? How about the entertainment? We've saw one. He was a ventriloquist magician / comedian.
Right.
Yeah.
I fell asleep.
I know. He was.
He was funny, but it was maybe I don't know.
I think he had his moments.
He had moments, yes.
Not to pick on him, but good to see the variety packs coming back.
Yes, there's a lot of choices.
Yeah, they do have 3 of the traditional shows as far as Tangled the musical is going to be on here, and then today was Lightyear.
Yeah, really,
Yeah, it was Lightyear, which unfortunately we're going to miss, but we're going to try and catch it.
The sea day, it sounds like it's every couple of hours on the sea day.
But today, that was the main focus. They had that in the Walt Disney Theater, so everybody that wanted to go down there and see that could go and see that.
Yep.
So
here's I don't know if we've already said this, but another recommendation to consider, I would say even with small kids, would be late dinner. Because both days, yesterday and today, we have gotten back to the ship and we've had people in our port excursion group who were just as hot and sweaty and gross as we were and had dinner in 20 minutes. So, and I think if you can grab a snack and make it work till 8 o'clock, you're gonna feel more relaxed.
I'm gonna temper that and say I'm gonna say just like, but know your family. If you think your kids can hack it a little bit later, it definitely makes it easier. But then again, the flip side of that is if you got littler kids, you probably are not. There was no little kids on our excursion today.
No, that's true.
So,
and I will say, when we had littler children and were doing Europe sailings, we just chose excursions that were half day instead of full day, so we were back in time.
Right. So
And we had early dinner.
if you're going to do all-day excursions and your family, you think that they can do that, and that's what you want to do, then you might consider the late dinner
Yes,
because
okay, that's what I meant to say.
it gets to be rushed. But I mean, now that we've kind of moved beyond that, it's been nice because like that first day, I remember like we just finally got settled and everything else. It was like 5:30 at night, and I think we like sat down and signal stuff, like our first drink and watched the sailaway and everything like that. It was like, man, we'd already have to be down in dinner in 15 minutes.
Right.
So definitely we've kind of moved beyond the earlier dinners, I guess, as far as that goes. So,
For sure.
what else? Any other tips for sailing over here? I had a couple that I couldn't. Oh, totally drawing a blank on.
Not
We talked about the food, talked about the entertainment. Tomorrow we are headed to Athens. Any advice for people that might be coming over and thinking about going to Athens?
I guess just kind of what we said earlier. Be aware it's a big city. I mean, probably roughly half of the Greek population lives in Athens, so it is. It's a big city. Lots of cool stuff to see, but just
So maybe some recommendations would be this. Athens might be a place where if you can figure out how to do a private tour to get you to the Parthenon, we're going to see how it works out for us. Get to the Parthenon early because everybody's going to go to the Parthenon. Our tour leaves at 8:15 tomorrow, and I'm hoping that we are going to be like, I know we're not going to be the first bus there because that's not going to happen. But
beat the rush.
I'm hoping we're going to beat most of the rush because it is warm over here. We're talking about mostly 90s, and that's
High
in
90s,
June,
yep.
like mid to late June. So, by mid to late morning, it's going to be hot up on the Parthenon. There's no shade. There's no shade up there. So maybe think about that if there's a way to maybe do a private excursion or a way to get you to the Parthenon a little bit sooner. That might help. That would have helped yesterday in Kefalonia. We could talk about that later. Kefalonia was the first time the Magic had visited there.
Yeah.
And so they got some kinks to work out with the tour company. We ended up being the last bus back, and it was funny. They said the sail away time was like what?
We were supposed to be all on board was supposed to be 4:30, and we got back to the ship at 5:30.
Well, and we were sitting there still eating like an hour plus away.
At like 4:15.
4:15, and they're coming out with the main course, and then there's dessert, and like our guide was like not worried about it at all.
Don't worry, they know we're late.
Yeah,
they won't leave you.
Yeah, it's Disney; they're not going to leave you. And so we got back, and it was funny. I was hoping to get a picture of the Magic in Kefalonia, like a little bit better one and everything like that. And they just literally like drived us up to the onboarding gangplank.
Kicked us out, and they pulled up the gangplank.
They pulled up the gangplank, and we were moving 5 minutes later. We were out of there.
We were the end.
Yeah, obviously the ship or the Disney gets charged by the inch or foot that they take up on their dock space by every minute that they're there. And so that was definitely costing them a little bit of money for us to have our leisurely...
We appreciated that they waited, however.
Anyways, all right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this one. It's getting a little bit windy as we are going to turn the corner and head out to sea. And we've got...
north to Athens.
Yeah, north to Athens. We've got some plans tonight. We're going to meet up with the Bragas again we're going to meet up with Chris and his family for a little beverage beforehand that we're eating at Lumiere's. Unfortunately, they do not have escargot tonight.
You pre-ordered, though.
I did pre-order, so maybe we'll see if it shows up.
Right.
We've had amazing wait staff. And
yes.
So the one thing also to know about, if you haven't done, beyond the 3, 4, maybe 5 days, when you get to the 7 days and the 9 days and beyond, they add special menus that you don't normally see, and so tonight is one of the special menus that they've added on. So excited to try that. So, okay, with that being said, I think the next snippet I will try and do is get Christy to get on here. We've seen her and Anthony from Magical Wanderlust, the podcast, around the ship. We've had breakfast with them the last 2 mornings, and now I need to figure out a way to track her down, and we'll talk about our time in Athens.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks to everybody for coming back and taking a listen, and we'll see you on the next snippets.
Bye.
Bye. Well, hello, DCL podcast fans. We are back. We just are sailing away right now out of Santorini. We're up at Signals. Just had happy hour, and with me today again is Anawake. How you doing today?
Very good.
Thinking about Greece and coming on this cruise. This is the port that I was most excited about. I was excited for you to go to Hania. I didn't know anything about Hania because you spent some time there as a kid, or when you were younger. But Santorini has been one of those places that I've always wanted to go, and mostly just because of the views and the pictures and the iconic pictures with the blue roofs and the white
iconic
buildings.
Greece poster.
Yeah, it is.
Travel poster.
It is. It's the iconic. And I mean, okay, let's be honest. We are not like the Mykonos, boom, 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 whatever.
Right.
kind of crowd or whatever like that. So I mean that was never in our like Greek sort of vacation kind of like jam or anything like that. But I was really excited to see Santorini, and it did not disappoint. What did you think?
I loved it. It was absolutely gorgeous. I was surprised that it was multiple islands, and I don't know why I never really looked at a map that closely, but it's really cool. There's one main island and then several others kind of in the caldera. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, and so what was Santorini? Santorini was a volcano that erupted, and then as the sea kind of took over and everything like that, it kind of filled up around it. And so
actually, so interesting note, our tour guide on Crete told us that the Minoan, they believe that the Minoan civilization, which was the first inhabitants on Crete that they have found evidence of, that the Minoan civilization they think was ended when the volcano at Santorini erupted, because it was the largest volcanic eruption the world has ever seen.
Wow. So, I mean, it is massive. When you think about, like, the caldera.
Yes, it's huge.
Like,
when you look around.
Yeah, living in Oregon, we know Crater Lake. And if anybody's been to Crater Lake National Park, I mean, it's amazing. It's a huge lake, and you see the crater all the way around.
But this is, like, dwarfs that.
It does. It completely dwarfs it. So, the size of the mountain when it exploded must have been just massive. And so, the islands that dot around it are all kind of in a circle, but there's, like, several ways into the center part between the islands and everything like that. So it's not like Crater Lake where it's like a contained caldera anymore. It's obviously the ocean has claimed it. But just an amazing. So today, well, before we even get into that, I got to say this. For those of you who have never met Tisa, she is one of the most amazing cast members on board Disney Cruise Line.
She cracks us up, makes our day.
She does. And I have a 1 minute clip which does not even do her justice, because it wasn't even the best jokes, because she was like setting us up to head out on our port adventure today.
Yes.
And I got to say that like we saw her doing trivia in the Mediterranean the last time we were over here.
We've seen her since then too, but I don't.
Yeah. Oh my God. Good friend of the show, Amber. She knows Tisa, and I know that Dennis is sailed with Tisa before, but if you ever get the pleasure of sailing with Tisa,
you'll know when you hear her.
You'll know when you hear her.
Listen closely, because there's all kinds of funny stuff being said.
Every word that comes out of her mouth, every word, you gotta listen to every word, because each one has a meaning, and they are funny, and it's gonna go over most people's heads, but she is just funny. Anyways, huge shout out to Tisa.
So she was the person directing us to our spots this morning.
Yeah, so just love her. Anyways, we get an opportunity to do it. So what did we do today? We'll just kind of talk about it real quick.
We headed out early this morning. Santorini is a tender port, so we boarded the tender, headed into the old port, which is down, like obviously water level, so down below the town of Thera. So the island is actually called Thera, TH, and the town is called Thera with an F. So we boarded the tender to Thera, got on another boat straight away, and went out and kind of sailed around. And it was super relaxing. I said to the kids, it was a beach day on a boat, and they were like, so that means it was a boat day.
It was.
Well, yes, that's what it was.
After kind of 3 like organized days, it was kind of nice to just like, all we did is we got on this boat. And what was super funny was like, we got in and nobody said welcome aboard or anything. They just loaded us up and we were off.
Took off.
Yeah, and we were going, and they didn't say anything the entire cruise.
No, we saw some churches. We saw some pretty stuff.
They played some music at one point.
We stopped. We swam. It was a little church in the rocks.
Some beautiful little churches, like pretty much everywhere we go in Greece. Like I think like wherever the like people can kind of gather. Yeah. And it seemed like with all these little churches are like little harbors, so like where maybe fishermen back in the day and still today.
Even today.
Yeah, and still today come into. There's like little churches there for them to worship at if they want to or need to or whatever else. So yeah, just an enjoyable day. And pulled into a little harbor, and it was like boats in and out, in and out, in and out.
Lots of people swimming.
People getting out, swimming. Lots of people with like private boats, like big catamarans, where they're cooking chicken on the back for them and everything like that. So
like with a couple families.
Yeah, but after kind of 3 more organized days, it was nice to just get off and do absolutely kind of nothing. The breeze was nice in the morning. The water was pleasant. As the day went on, the wind picked up. I don't know if that's normal here, but it would have been a little more choppier sailing around then. So it was good to be going in the morning.
I took some Dramamine anyway.
Yeah, definitely. If you got motion sickness, it might be worth taking some Dramamine. Then we got back, and we had plenty of time before the last tender was going to go, so we decided to take the cable car up to the town of Fira.
Yes.
and grab some lunch. And I mean, it's so high up there. And go to our Facebook page, you'll be able to see some pictures. But the views of the caldera,
amazing.
the
Absolutely amazing.
ships out there, and everything like that. You know, sitting out there eating some Greek food and watching
All the little white buildings that you have seen.
Yeah, watching, you know, like everything going on in the harbor and everything like that or the caldera was just amazing.
Yep, totally enjoyed it.
So, pro tip, there is a cable car that'll take you up, and there's a cable car that'll take you back down. But know that the cable car gets backed up pretty early with people coming down.
Like about 1:30 in the afternoon.
About 1:30 in the afternoon.
And it can be a very, very long line.
So we were sitting there like thinking about it. It's like, you know, you can walk up, which is very steep and can be very hot. I would only do it probably in the morning when you're in the shade. Once it gets in the afternoon, you know, use your best judgment on whether you want to do that or not. But
I will say when we were leaving Fira, there were a lot of people walking down. I think we only passed maybe 2 or 3 people walking up, and I think that they were not tourists.
right.
So just take that for what it's worth.
So you can take a donkey up or down as well. So that's
Donkey
an
taxi.
option. Donkey taxi, which is going to be a little bit faster. You're not going to have to walk. So that's an option for the cable car. But when we got off the cable car at 12:30, there was already a huge line. And we're like, you know what? We're not waiting in the cable car.
Not waiting in line.
So we enjoyed our lunch. That got done, and we wandered around, did a little shopping. And then it's a 20-minute walk down. Like I said, it's a little slippery because it's like slick, like the rocks have been walked on for so long that
Right. When we all had on shoes for a boat. We didn't really have our walking shoes on. There were some people on our tender back to a mom and daughter on our tender back to the boat that had just like cute with their outfit flip flops, they were both wishing that they had not worn them. You know, you kind of need to maybe plan accordingly. I guess even walking around Fira, and I'm assuming it's cobblestones and it's steps because it's all
steep.
So I would say flip flops are not a good choice. It was hard to walk in mine, and I would probably say something more like, you know, Keens or tennis shoe kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right, but it's a great option because the choice was to stand in line for an hour plus, waiting for in the hot sun, waiting for the cable car down, or walk down. It took us about 20 minutes.
And we got to see all the donkeys waiting for their chance to be taxis.
Yeah, and they are cute.
They are very cute. I petted some donkeys. It does smell a bit like a barn on the stairs, and it looks in some places like a barn. Just keep that in mind as well.
It does, but you get a great view the whole time as you're going down. And
it was an adventure.
It was an adventure, and it got down a little bit faster. Well, it got down way faster than we were waiting for the cable car. So it worked out perfect. So then we didn't feel like we're rushed at lunch. We could have a nice casual lunch, do some shopping, and then we were back on the ship. And then we are now sailing out, and probably after 4 days of go, looking forward to our sea day. And just know that if you're coming back to the Greek Isles this year, I know there's only really, I think, one more longer sailing going out, and there's one more after ours, and I think there's a longer sailing. But if you're going to come here next year, just know that there is a time zone change, which we didn't think there was going to be one.
Between the majority of Europe and Greece, there's 1 more hour.
Right, so we lost an hour going to Dubrovnik, but tomorrow on our sea day, we get it back, which is awesome. So we get another.
No, we didn't lose the hour going to Dubrovnik. We lost the hour between when we came to Greece.
Okay.
So the first, the Kefalonia night.
The Kefalonia night. Okay, so
going into Kefalonia. Right?
So we lost an hour coming to Greece, but we get the hour back tomorrow, which is going to be awesome. It's on a sea day, which is glorious. And then we're on to Naples, which we are doing an Adventures by Christie excursion, ABC. So we'll be excited to see her out on the port waiting for us with her big sign.
Right, yeah, Creasy family.
Welcoming the Creasy family to take us on our excursion.
The kids have requested that specifically.
No, but we are going to hopefully head out to Heracleon. Heracleon's on Crete.
Yes.
Which is where the other Greece cruise goes to. So we're hopefully going to get a Herculaneum, which is a smaller kind of version of Pompeii in Naples. And then we get some pizza and just kind of kick back on the ship for the rest of the day. Kind of relax before we get off into Rome.
That's it.
Overall, what's your thoughts about sailing the Greek Isles?
It's been lovely. Absolutely lovely. I have enjoyed every day as we come back. I've said I really enjoyed my day.
And I have to say this too, because this kind of I wasn't expecting this, but in Norway, you can pretty much get off at most of the ports and you're right there in town. Same with Alaska for the most part. You're going to get off the ship, you're going to be right into town. To the Mediterranean, you're going to stop at
Like the Italian, French ports.
Very industrial ports. A lot of amazing things to see, but a lot of them are like an hour plus away from a bus ride. But what has been nice about the Greek Isles, and although we have done excursions that took us a little bit longer away from the ports, is that you're kind of in the same thing. Like, especially Hanya, I mean, it was just like a dock that stuck out into the water because it's kind of in a secluded harbor. We parked in it. You could walk right into town, and, well, not Hanya, I'm sorry, Kefalonia. Which is the name of the town I'm totally drawing a blank now.
Me too.
Yeah, anyways. But
Agostoli.
So you can totally walk in Agostoli. So I guess what I'm trying to say is very simple, easy ports. Other than Athens, Athens is going to be your one
Athens is a big city.
That's going to be one of your industrial port. And then Naples in 2 days will be industrial too. So I wasn't expecting that about the Greek Isles, but that's something that really appeals to me and makes me want to come back.
I mean, both Dubrovnik and in Hanya, you don't stop exactly in town, but it's like a 10-minute bus ride, and they run shuttles continuously. It's lovely.
And that is a good point to point out with Disney Cruise Line, because it's a premium cruise line. On Norwegian, we had to pay like $10.
20 bucks. Yeah,
20 bucks.
Yeah,
I think it was like $10 each round trip to go to Dubrovnik, but because most premium cruise lines, from talking to Christy, and Disney definitely did it as well, they offered free shuttles, continuous free shuttles to Hanya, and then also into Dubrovnik when we stopped in Dubrovnik. So good on them. I mean, they're giving you a little bit of value for what you're paying for, because you're definitely paying for it to come over here.
Right.
But anyways, we've enjoyed our time. Love the Greek Isles. Looking forward to our sea day.
Yes.
And then Adventures by Christy in Naples.
Yep. Apollo dinner tonight too.
As well with Christy the concierge. So definitely looking forward to that. It's been fun to spend some time with him and his family.
Yes.
And also with Christy and Anthony as well for every breakfast. So.
Yeah.
They are on the early dinner, we're on the late dinner, so it's like, it's
so we
funny.
See them for breakfast.
We see them for breakfast, but we kind of miss them in the evenings because our evenings are a little bit different. So.
Right. We texted Christy last night as we were headed to dinner, and she was in bed already.
I know, that is so funny. She's like, I'm in bed, and it's glorious. It's like, we haven't even got to dinner yet. So, all right, we'll leave it with that. Thanks for coming back and taking a listen, and we'll be back. I know Christy and I are going to be on. We'll see if you've got a facial tomorrow, so I'm not sure.
I do have a facial tomorrow.
Not sure if you have time to come back on the Snippet episode with Christy, but
I will say,
go ahead.
Very super quickly. Normally, on the sea days, spa appointments are super hard to come by and need to be booked prior to cruising. It seems like. So I was completely shocked when I had a massage on our first sea day, and then I decided, well, maybe I would like to have a facial too. So when I asked about booking for that they had lots of openings. So I don't know if that's just the length of the cruise or that it's COVID or what it is, but I have definitely appreciated that I've been able to get in on it. I mean, usually it's like, oh, we've got a port day at 8 p.m. Like, nobody wants to go have a massage then. Or 8 a.m.
Well, I think the difference really is Europe.
Probably.
I think Europe is a completely different animal than when you're doing the 3 or 4 days at a Park Canaveral, where you're fighting with so many people that want that experience. Where here, people are looking for different experiences.
That's true.
Not that they don't want to go have facials and spend time in the spa, because several people we know have. And I will say this too, also, Cabanas has been enjoyable too. And on the Med, I think everybody left early because you're in those industrial ports and it's kind of a long distance. A lot of the port excursions are leaving early at the same time. Being in the islands, in the Greek islands, their kind of excursions were like spread out. So going up to Cabanas was very easy, other than Athens. Athens was the only day was busy because everybody's getting off and everybody wants to go to the Acropolis.
Right.
So that was a busy day, but for the rest of the time, Cabanas has been very enjoyable. It's not like your normal port day where everybody's trying to find a table. So,
right. Exactly.
Another 2 thumbs up for a reason to book a Greek Isles cruise.
Woohoo!
Which maybe we'll be back here next year.
Or soon.
Well, exactly. So, all right. Thanks again, everybody, for coming back to take a listen, and we'll see you on the next Snippets.
Yasu.
Bye. Yasu. Well, hello, DCL podcast fans. We are live again here on the Disney Magic, sailing on our sea day, our last sea day of a 9-day, and I've got myself. I can't talk. It's 6:30 in the morning. What time is it?
6:30 in the morning.
6:30 in the morning, and a good friend of the show, Anthony from the Magical Wanderlust podcast, is joining us, and from Magical Wanderlust, the travel agency as well. How are you doing this morning, Anthony?
I'm good. How are you doing, Steve?
Not too bad. It was kind of funny because
I woke up, I went down to get some coffee. My phone said 7 o'clock, and I'm like pouring the coffee, and this guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, did your phone change? Because mine didn't. It's still 6." And I'm like,
Yeah, mine didn't phone change either. I actually went to Cove Cafe, and I was like trying to push because in order to get in the Cove, you have to push the handicap sign to get in. And I was pushing it, and I was looking at the guys inside, and they were like, the guy came out, and he was like, "Sir, we don't open until 6:30." And I was like, "Oh, I thought it was 6:30." And he's like, "No, we went back an hour." And I was like, "Oh, my phone didn't change, and neither did my watch."
but I guess it's a good thing that it's trending that way versus the other way, because it was nice to get an hour back, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, so nothing was open that I wanted to do because the gym doesn't open till 6. So it was actually 5:30 when I was up. So here we are. But now we're getting to watch the beautiful sunrise over the Mediterranean.
And this is one of my favorite things about the Mediterranean. It's like, look how calm the water is out there. I know you guys can't see that because we're sitting here looking at it right now, but just kind of it's going to be a beautiful day on the Mediterranean as we make our way up towards Naples for our last port.
Last port of call. It feels, I don't know if I can ever go back to a 7-day now. Like, this has been 9 days of, like, today would be our disembarkation day if it was a 7-day.
Well, and all we've done is 3 and 4 days. So, no, that's not true. We did 1 5-day, but mostly like 3 days for years now. And to your point, man, I'm not sure. I can do the 3 days out of San Diego. Nice long weekend, being on the West Coast. A couple days in San Diego, 3 days in the ship. That's nice. But going all the way across the country for me, I just don't see it doing the 3 days out of Park Canaveral.
Yeah, I mean it's it takes you so we flew into Rome 2 days before this cruise, and then 2 days, and then 2 days on the ship. We were finally settled into our vacation. We were finally in vacation mode. You get into your cabin and you want to settle in and get all your stuff put away. You get the bearings on the ship. Takes a day. 2 days in, and then now we're fully relaxed. And then now at least on day 5 you guys start thinking about packing up again because you're either at Castaway or you're at day at sea, and you're like, how do I get to Castaway without having to worry about packing or worry about doing the day at sea? So
exactly. So first time doing a Greek Isles cruise. What are your overall thoughts about the Greek islands that we stopped and seen?
I've loved this cruise so much, and I am one to very much be I will only do the unique itineraries once because I want to go see so many other things. We want to do a Panama Canal cruise. We want to do a transatlantic cruise. And it's hard to fit those kind of things in. But I would seriously consider redoing this cruise again because you could literally do this cruise all over again and have a completely different experience because there's so much to do in each port.
One of the things that surprised me too was, other than Athens, most of the ports are pretty small little ports that you get into. So easy to walk off into the little towns that you're at, or they've got buses.
Mm-hmm.
Disney's been really good about free buses up to the old town of Dubrovnik, over to the town of Hania when we were on Crete. So easy ports to get into and out of, and like you said, so many diverse different things to do.
Also, you just learn so much about not so much about the port, but the operation of how the ship works and how you can maximize the amount of your time. One of the biggest takeaways for the operational side of the ship is that in Santorini you have to tender, and that really does eat. It's a beautiful island, great, but tendering in and getting to your thing does take a good amount of time, half hour, 45 minutes each way. And if you're going to do the cable car down in Santorini, be prepared to wait an hour to get down on that cable car. A couple of people from our group were going to take the cable car down, and actually when they went over and got in line, the employee who was there told them that it was almost an hour and a half wait. So at that point, they had to walk down the side of the mountain. So just taking those, being able to, when you come over here without knowing all that information, it makes it a little bit challenging. But if I were to do this cruise again next year, I feel like I could get, not that I didn't get a lot out of this cruise and the culture and the beauty of the country of Greece and Italy, but I feel like I could get so much more out of it just knowing how to best plan for this cruise.
And that's a good point. So you and I and Christy are going to sit down hopefully afterwards and talk about our excursions and do a little bit deeper dive on it, and I'll make sure that we hit on all those points because we saw that we got up there at 12:30 after our we sailed around, and we got up to the top of the cable car at 12:30, and there was already a line building, and it kind of puts you under that pressure because you got to get back on the ship by 4:45. And so we're like, you know what, let's just go have a nice nice lunch. We'll walk around the shops and everything like that, and we'll just plan to walk down. And it's not for everybody. It would be difficult if you have mobility. You cannot do it if you have mobility issues. But it's about a 20-minute walk. It's all downhill. It's a little slippery, so make sure you have the right
It's
shoes
harder
for
than you
it.
think it is, too.
It is.
Your legs are actually a little shaky at the end of it.
It is, and there's an option you can pay to take a donkey down, so there's another option too. But that cable car line is definitely one of the that's a good point to point out for people that are coming next year or maybe later in the summer. Although there's only, I think, one more sailing, I think.
Yeah. I feel like that port adventure. I have a lot of advice about port adventures in Greece and Italy.
So let's just talk about that real quick. Instead of booking, you've had a couple with Disney, but then you also did some private ones. What are your thoughts between private and Disney?
All right, I am a person of transparency, and I know this is a DCL podcast and we're about Disney, but like, if I were to do this particular itinerary over again, I probably would go exclusively private. So I'm lucky enough to be on the cruise with a bunch of friends and my husband, and some of the stuff we wanted to do by ourselves, just to do a couple thing, and a couple other times we joined our friends on private tours. And the difference between what you can get done in the summertime in the Mediterranean when you're with 6 people versus what you can get done with 40 people, it's worth the money. And I wouldn't even say it's even that more expensive. So I'll give you an example. Santorini yesterday, there were 8 of us. We had a private tour guide that let us tailor our tour to ourselves. She gave us like a list of like 5 things that we really should hit. If we wanted to do all of them, we could do it. We could have done them all. If we wanted to do 2 of them, we could have done 2 of them. We ultimately ended up doing 3 of them, but we did them in our own time. We got to stop for photos. Like, with a big group, you are on a time schedule. You have to keep going. There's 40 people that want the same photo, so you got to move kind of through. We got to take our time. We got to enjoy it. We got to sit there as long as we wanted. The tour guide, they've been paid, so they're like, they're standing off to the side. They're like, you let us know when you're ready to go. Like, they don't get paid by, how long they spend at each place. So they just kind of stand off to the side. When you're ready to get some information, you can just kind of be like, tell us about this place. And they will go into as much or as little detail as you want. It's truly incredible. And we had the tour guide we had him booked from 9:30 to 3:30. And it was only €550.
Yeah, so you think about, like, there's 8 of you, so if you split that between a couple different families, couples, or whatever else, that really reduces the cost, doesn't it?
So, and we say only €550, but if we put it in perspective, which is about 650 American, we're about 700 American. If we put that in perspective, the tours that we did have originally booked, they were almost $400 together.
Right.
Because it was $189 for the Ultimate Tour of Santorini, which we ended up doing everything they did on the Ultimate Tour. And then plus tax and then gratuity, you're running close to $450, $500. And that was only 2 people.
Right. And you're only going to be able you're never going to be able to see as much as what you did on that private tour. So
and for the private tour we paid $550, and there was 8 of us, and we had a luxury Mercedes 9-seater that had a table in it that we could put food on, and I think the best part is that we got recommendations from a local guide, and they were able to take us to. They were able to knock 2 things off the list at once. We were like, we really want to try some local cuisine, but we also want to see a beach. She took us to a beach that had local food at it on the black sand, and it was like, definitely Instagram vibes, but like it's just stuff like that makes the difference, especially when you're spending so much money just to get for the entry to the barriers to entry for this cruise are so high, like the flights over here, and then the actual cruise itself, because we all know that Disney Cruise Lines is not the cheapest in the Mediterranean.
No.
So the barriers to entry to this actual vacation are so high. At that point, like, if you're going to do that, it's an investment. You're going to really want to spend your money to get the most out of your cruise.
I totally agree with that. When you think about how much you're going to spend on not to diss any of the Disney port adventures themselves, and that they work sometimes for different families and everything else, and depending upon what your situation is. But to your point, when you spend as much as you have, an extra $300 here, an extra $300 there, I think you end up having a much better experience. At least that's what we've seen. We did a private tour with some friends of ours in Athens, and we got to do a lot more than what we originally had planned with what Disney had planned for. Just like you said, not much more than what we were going to pay Disney for the port adventure itself. So,
and we actually, I didn't book it, but my friend did, and she actually went through a local tour group, Warm Penguin. It's you can look them up on TripAdvisor. They have really good reviews on TripAdvisor. They're rated the #1 tour operator for small groups in Greece, and you're supporting the local economy.
Yep.
Not with Disney, you're giving the money to Disney. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. I always feel a little I'm a small business owner. I always feel a little bit better when I know that I'm giving my money to a smaller, it's not a mom and pop operation, but
Right.
It's a local company to Greece. They're based out of Greece. They were very responsive to all of our emails. When we need to make changes, even on the boat, we would email them and they would respond while we were on the boat with changes.
And that's a good point. If you don't know who to go with as far as doing an independent travel agency or something like that, booking a private travel in your different port stops, really do your research. And it's really not that hard. If you look at TripAdvisor, if they got some really good recommendations through TripAdvisor, also look for recent reviews. I was kind of trying to figure out how we're going to get to the port from Rome, and I was like, well, there's a lot of different ways to do it. We wanted to get a private car. I was just started Googling around private transportation and found a really good service that we used, and they had probably 30 or 40 5-star reviews over the last 2 or 3 weeks from people using it to get to Civitavecchia for different cruise lines. So it's at that point, when I booked it and they were responsive, like you said, right away, I felt really comfortable about what we were doing with them. So just do a little bit of time, take the research, look for recent reviews, positive recent reviews, and I think that 90% of the time you're going to be really good.
And the alternative, what I'd say about private adventures is that it's a lot more legwork for you. Whereas with Disney, you log on to the website when it's your time to book, you push that button, and you're booked and you're done.
That's a good point.
That's it.
Yep.
With private adventures, you have to do a lot of you have to find the company.
Yep.
And then you have to figure out whether or not it's a reputable company and a company that you want to go with, and that can take a little bit of time. And that's a little bit of stress because you're I'm about to pour a couple grand into this company.
Right.
I want to make sure.
Right.
Then you have to come up with. You have to give it's a lot of emailing back and forth over months of time to figure out your itineraries, your port arrival time, and then during your trip, you also have to update them. So during this trip, we've had 2 delayed arrivals in port, in Santorini and in
It was
Hana.
it was because of us in Kefalonia.
Yeah.
We were the last bus in.
Steve got us late. Steve got the whole boat late.
We were late by an hour, and it really caused the boat to be late the next day into Hania, which had you guys had to let everybody know that you were going to be an hour late.
So we had to email our tour operator, and in order to do that, we had to pay for the internet on the boat in order to do that.
Right.
There are pros and cons but for me, the amount of pros to dealing versus having to deal with Disney are way better. And that's just, and for this region, and I say this is very specific to the Mediterranean Europe region, I don't think I would have any problem doing it in the Caribbean or the Bahamas. Not that I don't think I've ever done a port excursion with Disney except for on Castaway, when you don't have any other operators.
Right.
So, but I would say definitely with Europe, or any regional cruise, whether it be Disney or not Disney, depending on who you're sailing with, definitely try to find a local tour guide to do it.
So, just a couple more things as we finish up here quick. Overall, what's the funnest thing you've done on board the ship? What's one fun thing that you've been able to do on the ship?
Nothing.
Just relaxing, huh?
I have 2 little boys, and they're not with us on this trip. This is our daddy's trip, and the best thing I've done on the ship is nothing.
Yeah, I love that. I can tell you, having breakfast with you and Christy the last couple of days has been a blast. It's been fun to wake up and have friends to be able to start the day with.
I will say that about cruising is that as much as it's been a daddy trip and it was really a time for me and my husband to spend time together, it is quite nice to have friends on the ship that when we get tired of each other's faces, we can go see other people.
All right, last question. Next year, the Disney Dream is going to be out here in Europe instead of the Magic. Any thoughts on the Dream being out here versus the Magic?
I'm excited for the Dream to be out here. So like I said, me and my family are very much a itineraries versus a ship type of family, and with the Dream out here, it'll be nice to have a new ship to sail. We've sailed the Magic 4 times. We're very much a unique itinerary type of family, so it'll be nice to have a new ship out here.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, you'll be back. We'll be talking Port Adventures a little bit deeper dive. You had some amazing adventures, some things that you got to see. But I just want to give you a quick shout out here. If people want to get a hold of you and use your services through the travel agency and your podcast, how can they find you?
So my podcast is Magical Wonderlust Podcast. We're not as regular as uploading as Steve is. He's very good. Podcasting for me is very much a passion, not so much a job. So we do try to upload at least once a week, but last 2 weeks, obviously, I've been in the Mediterranean.
And
so
we haven't uploaded one this week either. So,
we have not uploaded one. And then you can find my travel agency at Magical Wonderlust Adventures. We're also on Instagram at magical_wonderlust_adventures. And that's where we post all our stuff. And then we have a group. It's called the Magical Wonderlust Adventurers on Facebook. And that's where I posted all like my deep dives into this trip. So if you want to see what we did each day, what you can expect from your Mediterranean cruise, definitely check that out.
Yeah, and you guys have got experts in Europe, Asia, and also down in Australia.
Yeah.
Not to mention you get every part of Disney covered.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Europe for almost a year. I've traveled to Europe pretty much yearly outside the pandemic. So Europe is really my second home.
Perfect. Well, all right, Anthony, I've taken up too much of your time. It's time for you to get back to doing nothing. So thanks for doing this with us.
You're welcome. Thanks so much, Steve.
Cheers. Well, welcome back, DCL podcast fans. We're doing another little snippet, and finally on day 8 of the cruise. Is it 8 or 7? I'm lost now.
I have zero idea.
Yeah, I think it's Christy.
Oh wait, it's Saturday. We got out on Saturday.
Saturday, so
it's
day 7. Christy and I are finally sitting down to do a snippets, but I think that just goes to show you how busy these cruises are, and that's the one thing. And then the other thing is when you're on opposite dining schedules, once you get back from doing like whatever your port adventure is or spending the day, especially if you're in Europe, you want to get out and do a port adventure. We just don't have a lot of time to hang out together, do we?
No, I mean, I think we've been hanging out a good amount. It's
Right.
just that we've been hanging out. So instead of working, quote unquote, we have done a couple of Patreon lives during some of the port days.
Right.
That's been fun. So that's what we were spending our time doing.
And we've had breakfast generally every morning.
Yeah, which is so fun.
Yeah, and then maybe drinks the signal afterwards before you guys go to dinner.
Yeah, so it's perfect amount of hanging out.
Exactly. So I thought we would touch on, or you wanted to touch on a little bit of, we're just talking about just cruising in Europe a little bit in general here on the snippet, and you had some challenges getting here.
Oh, I described it as it was an adventure, and it was just like one thing after another, and we would think like, okay, it's all going to be fine, our luck's going to, and then, something else would happen. But overall, it was fine. We made it on time to the ship. But after my experience, which we'll just briefly describe in a second, I would recommend coming in more than 2 days early.
I totally agree after watching what happened.
Yeah, because a lot of people, there were a ton of flight cancellations. This is the middle of the summer, middle of June, and it wasn't like Florida or Atlanta thunderstorms. It was New York thunderstorms and other areas of the country. And because of the delays or with crew member shortages right now overall in the airlines, they just, in very full flights, if you miss your connection and you miss your flight, you may not be able to get out for a couple of days.
And another thing, too, is there's not as many direct flights to Rome as there are to a lot of other places in Europe. So a lot of times you're having to go someplace else in Europe and then head down to Rome, depending upon which your carrier is. Or if you're going on Delta like you did, I mean, they have 1-2 flights a day to Rome, and that's it.
Yeah, so out of New York, there were a couple flights. Out of Boston, there was like a flight maybe. And out of Atlanta, there was a couple flights. But there's a ton of flights feeding into those. And then so here's what happened. We are on our way to our Orlando airport, and we get the message that our flight's delayed. Now, a month before the cruise, Delta already moved our flights an hour, so there was only an hour between the two flights. It was not pretty.
It was going to be tight.
It was going to be tight to begin with, and like in New York, the terminal from the one to the other, you have to take this bus, and there's like a whole thing involved. It's a mess. So whatever, we were a little bit stressed. It was going to be tight. But then our flight was delayed. So I actually begged my way on to a flight leaving for LaGuardia. Like, all of a sudden they were like, this flight is boarding. And I was like, wait, are there seats? Let me get on this because maybe I'll make my connection. We ended up being able to get on. Shockingly, we all had seats kind of together, which, like, we didn't even know we were getting on the flight. They called all the people and said, get on now if you're supposed to be on this flight. And I'm like, am I? Nobody's told me I'm confirmed on it yet. It was a whole adventure. But we got on, our seats were all together. We get to New York. We are going to be on time for our connection to Rome. And then we sat on the tarmac for 2 hours. They eventually brought out food and water. This is how long we were stuck there. Because New York was all backed up from all their morning flights that were canceled and delayed. And so we got to our Rome flight 5 minutes late because it was delayed for like a half an hour. We still didn't make it. Shockingly, and probably because of the status that we carry with Delta, we were able to have confirmed seats on a later flight to Rome. So we got on. Our luggage was still on our original New York flight. We definitely didn't think we were getting any of it with us the next day when we landed. We got 2 of our 3 bags. We actually got the 1 bag that had like all of our toiletries and stuff we needed to sleep. So I guess my next piece of advice would be to we don't want to deal with like taking carry-on with us, but my next piece of advice would be to take a carry-on bag that gets you what you need for your first night, at least. And then that way, if there's a delay, if your luggage ends up on a different flight. So one of our pieces of luggage didn't make it to Rome on that same flight as we did. And when we got to the airport, we were told to, like, they would get it to us. But I think I talked to you, Steve, and we talked and just were thinking about it. And we're like, what if it doesn't? We then found out that Athens was like maybe day 4 or 5 of our cruise, that 12 bags were supposed to have arrived onto our ship at Athens for people that didn't get their luggage, and none of the bags arrived. And so definitely didn't want that experience where we didn't have, like, all of my son's clothes were in that missing luggage. I think our bathing suits were in that missing luggage. It wasn't missing, it just wasn't with us. A bunch of stuff we needed, right? So we ended up I went to the airport the morning that our cruise left because I knew which flight my luggage was arriving on, and went and got my luggage. And that was a whole thing, but it all worked out really nicely. And so we had all our luggage.
I guess 2 tips that I know people have talked about in the past, and do as they say and not as we do, because we still didn't do this very smartly either, because we had the same problem with Anoak's bag when we went to, I keep losing when this one was, it was Norway, and British lost her bag didn't show up. So a couple different things. One tip that other people do besides the carry-on bag is to cross pack your bags. So maybe put so many different sets of clothes in each bag for each person, so that if one bag doesn't show up, at least you got some clothes. Yep. What we did this time was just put one outfit in each bag for each person.
So at least you had
had one thing, but we didn't cross pack the whole thing because that just gets to be too much for us.
Right.
So we didn't do that. And to note about luggage, what's going to happen is that when your bag gets lost, the airline is going to contract it out to, there's a lot of different services in Europe and in the US too. They're going to contract it out to some other company to get your bag to you. So I think you did the smart thing going to the airport and getting it, because if you're going to be in Rome for 5 days, you're most likely going to get your bag in the next day or 2. But we were getting on a ship. And who knows if they were going to get it to your hotel that morning, which I doubted. There's no way they're going to get to the hotel.
And my luggage was supposed to be on an earlier flight. And in the middle of the night, we learned it wasn't on the flight that originally it was supposed to be on. So then it was only going to have 2 hours from when that flight landed so there was no way that luggage was making it to me.
No.
And when I picked it up on the
carousel,
the luggage carousel.
Yeah.
So it wasn't pulled out before.
No, it's all going to take time. So if you're going to be there for 3 or 4 days, you're probably going to get your luggage in time. But as far as the cruise goes, especially leaving that day, forget about it. And then who knows if it's going to show up in Athens in time.
Right, because all these other people's didn't. So I don't know. It's obviously a boring topic, but I feel like something that needs...
We are down at the Promenade Lounge getting ready to do some coloring. So there's lots of kids here, and adult kids too that are getting ready to color Mickey.
Yep.
So it's kind of fun to see that. Let's go back to your original point too, that you were talking about, where you said that, where you were talking about like flights and stuff like that, as far as maybe coming here a couple days earlier.
Yeah, what more do you want me to say about that? Just come here earlier.
I guess I wanted to go back and just make one point in this. I mean, to come to Europe, you're spending a lot of money to go on these cruises. And I guess lesson learned for me watching what happened to a lot of people. And when you've got that much riding on it, I mean, we always talk about flying in the day before in the U.S. for a cruise. And I know it's expensive to stay in Europe, depending upon what your travel plans are. But I think I would highly recommend coming in like 2, maybe 3 days prior. It gives you 2 different things. One, it gives you flexibility in case something like the weather happens. 2, yeah, you're spending a little bit more money, but I mean, I would rather spend $600 on 2 nights in a hotel room than go through the stress of what people had as far as losing a $10,000 plus vacation.
Plus, yeah, because $10,000 would be the very... no one paid, I don't think, $10,000 for this cruise.
Right.
Unless they had a Wish 50% off coupon type of thing. So, I mean, really, yeah. And the reality is, Barcelona and Rome, which are the ports that most of the Disney European cruises leave out of, right, are very easy to navigate. And they're very walkable.
And they're very, I think, in all honesty, they're pretty inexpensive cities as far as like food goes. You can really find good food fairly inexpensively to feed your family. And like, who doesn't like, for the most part, pizza and pasta, right?
Right. Let
Kid-wise.
me point this out about Rome really quick too, though. And this would be true for Italy. You know, you hear stuff about like protecting your bags and protecting your phone and stuff like that. So we were on a port excursion with these 2 gals yesterday, young, like maybe they were in high school. Their grandparents took them. Grandma's backpack and phone got taken from lunch in a random Rome restaurant. Nobody even knows how. They never saw it. Like the backpack was on the floor by their foot. Their phone was on the table. Somebody swiped them both. They didn't notice until a little bit later that they were both gone. So the comments, they're very easy, walkable cities. So go back to that. Now I know I'm talking about something bad, but just keep your stuff, like, you know, put your backpack under the chair table or under the leg for the chair so that someone can't just pull it. Make sure you're putting your phone back in your pocket or clip it to you or put it in your bra or something like that.
The flip side of that is the ports in Greece have all been, you're at pretty small ports as far as that goes, and you definitely don't have the crowds and let's put it this way. Those are, always be aware.
Yeah.
But I think that don't be afraid in Greece, because I don't think that you're gonna have, except other than Athens, the big city.
I was gonna say, and at the Acropolis, everybody,
Right.
even every guide that was there said, watch your stuff,
right?
You know, watch your pockets,
right.
Just because it is so crowded, and you're at the Acropolis in particular, you're people to people, and you really are almost touching somebody just by being there. And so that's just another spot. Keep your stuff in a secure way.
And I guess I'm thinking is like our port adventures that we've done, like the one that we did in Hanya, where we're like hiking in a gorge, and it's just basically our small group, and then we had like just a small group in a tavern afterwards and stuff like that. You've got no problems there.
No,
it's the bigger cities where you can have that, like Rome, Barcelona, and whatnot. You know, be wary of that.
Which is like a bigger city in the United States.
Right.
So okay, enough of the boring.
Let me throw one more thing out there. The other thing that I think that would help coming 3 days prior is it gets you, I mean, it's a major time zone, especially for us. And so if you can take care of some of those time zone issues, you know, for a couple days before you get on the ship, then that's going to give you more time to really enjoy the ship once you get on board.
For sure. Instead of going to bed at like 8:30, like I keep trying to do. Okay, listeners, a little back-end DCL podcast for you. Steve whined about me recording the pre-trip, and he did just as much of the talking. And I think it's important, relevant stuff.
It was. I was thinking that we should just talk about the ship since we're on the ship and everything like that, but it's all good. This is all good information because I think for the most part, like our main show is probably going to be mostly about some of the port adventures we did. Yep. For those of you coming over to Europe. So as far as the ship stuff goes, you know, I mean, it's the same Disney magic. A lot of the same, art for me. I can't even talk. You know, animation drawing, they're doing coloring, they've got the shows in the evenings and everything else. Crafts and all that type of stuff. And so I guess that's my question to you. Do you feel like, what's your thoughts about sailing with Disney over in Europe? Because I think the way we've looked at it is, you know, when you go to the Caribbean, you can spend most of your time on the
On the
Disney
sh-
ship and
on the
take
ship.
advantage of it. But once you're over here, you really want to be out in the ports, and so like a lot of the stuff that are on the ship become a little less important this time, I guess, for us.
For sure, 100%. And I'm more concerned about having more energy for the port excursions. Some of those are long days. And so doing all of the little onboard activities are less important to me.
I think we've come to like we do maybe one a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. There was a couple days we didn't do any.
I feel like at the beginning of the cruise, I think I did a little bit more. And now we're doing even less because we're like, it's almost done and we're tired.
Uh-huh.
Although at the beginning of the cruise, we were also tired from, work and getting here. I will say, so did you talk already about how many people are on board?
No, go ahead.
I think it's between 1,600 and 1,800 people. There's less than 200 school-age children on board, and it might be actually all children under 18, which is visible in the kids club. Blake is loving it. He does like smaller groups in the kids club. He is having a blast, and he is there we've come back from several port excursions, and he literally, changes his clothes if needed or washes his hands and gets walked right to the kids club. So he's loving it.
Definitely an advantage of over in Europe because people are out on the port excursions. Those port excursion days, you're going to find times on the ship when you come back that people are coming back at different times.
Even in the evening, though, because
Yeah.
the evening is traditionally, no matter who has what dining time,
Right.
that there's more children in the kids clubs, and it has not. By more children, there might be 12 instead
Right.
of 5.
Right.
It's been great for him. He is loving it.
Yeah, Alex and I came back. We rode the Aquadunk 8 times in a row because we were the only ones there.
Yeah.
And, when does that happen when it's in the Caribbean?
Never.
Never.
Dave rode it several times in a row, a couple times, and they even rode the little Mickey slide a couple of times right in a row. There's not a person to be seen. We were in the pool, the regular kids pool, after one of our port excursions. We got back. You were still gone on your excursion, arriving at the last minute.
Last bus.
And there was my family in the pool and one other person.
Yeah.
When have you ever seen that
No.
in the main kids pool?
I can't tell you how many times I've actually walked because we're always in. I think there's more adults in the adult area.
Yes.
It's more crowded than you walk by the main pool area, and a lot of times those chairs are just all full and there's kids everywhere. Several times I've gone by and I feel like there's maybe a quarter full.
I know, you're like, is the pool closed? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, if even a quarter full.
Right.
I imagine today it'll be a little bit more crowded because it's our last sea day.
Right. Yeah, I think the sea days I think are going to be
Right.
busy, right? I will also say maybe there's a little bit more older kids on these sailings because
For sure, because it's hard to travel with kids to Europe.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of babies. Matter of fact, I'm looking at one right
Yeah,
now.
and we heard him that baby speaking earlier.
Yeah, so there are some babies and stuff, but there is quite a few middle school age kids. Alex has been having a blast.
Yeah, he's been gone the whole week.
We didn't see him yesterday. We came back after we rode the Aquadunk, and I didn't see him. And I did not, because I went to bed before he came home. So I did not even see him yesterday. He was hanging around with the Edge and doing all the Edge stuff. And then we had Pala dinner. So Andrew and Alex and 2 other kids that we're sharing the table with, Chris and the concierge's kids, had dinner together with themselves down there. So it was kinda,
nice.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yesterday, I had my chicken schnitzel, but the first order that they delivered to me was grilled plain chicken, and I was like, I looked at it and I just said, no. No, this isn't what I ordered. So I said, just bring me what Dave has. But they were like, no, I'm going to fix it. And he took it away again. I'm not sure what happened. Our head waiter has been awesome this cruise. He actually said, somebody must have been being lazy. And then he went right to the boss in the kitchen and said, my guest ordered this yesterday. What is the problem? So I got my chicken schnitzel.
I love it.
It is still just as good as it always has been.
I love that. So I guess just a couple more topics before we finish up. There are no fireworks in Greece because of Greek laws in this area, I guess. I'm not sure if it's a law, but basically...
Whatever, they don't allow it.
Yeah, they don't allow it. So no fireworks on the Greece cruises. They did have a pirate night, so they did do the pirate night party.
With quite a buffet, according to Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony went up and did that. Anything else you want to talk about? I got one other question for you, I guess.
You can ask that question.
All right, so what's your thoughts? You've been to Europe several times now with Disney, other different cruise lines. You've been on board the Magic, all of the ships except for the Wish, which hopefully you're going to be on in just a couple weeks here, or a couple days.
Literally a couple weeks.
Yeah.
It's a couple weeks from tomorrow.
So hopefully that one, sailing's going to go. We know they canceled the first two. But what are your thoughts about the Dream coming here next year versus the Magic?
I'm torn. We're not even going to edit this, though, either. We're just going to have all of my lack of words coming out of my mouth.
Well, that's what these are all about.
I'm torn because there's some advantages. Like, I think I would have loved for our kids to play putt-putt, mini golf again, like they did when we were all on
The
Dream together. When were we on the Dream together? We were.
No,
it
that was
wasn't
at
the
Vero
Dream.
Beach.
At Vero Beach. I was like, wait, we're not a.
This is the first cruise together.
It is.
Yeah.
Cheers to that with our water
Coffee
and coffee. So our kids played mini golf at Vero Beach after one of our cruises, and it was so great for Blake, at least, to he got to have a little more independence. He got to hang with big kids. He had a blast. I loved watching him, and something like that, having mini golf and some family activities that you can do that's not a window scavenger hunt, because that's what they offer on this trip. Like, go find this window. I think that will be an advantage over here.
I've got one that I think is kind of a cool advantage too. Well, first I have to cry because the Magic's going away from Europe, and Chris, this is for you, Chris, because it does make me very sad. But I just love. I love the smaller ships.
I love that it's smaller and there's less people, and I worry about the port excursions. But
that's
we'll
a good point. But I will say one good point is looking at the prices for next year. If you want a balcony cabin, it is significantly cheaper because there's just so many more.
That they have
I'm going
to
to tell you, $7,000 cheaper.
Wow, for your family
on the same cruise.
And that's not even including opening day booking.
Yeah,
because you just rebooked right on board or something.
Yeah,
and these were released months ago.
Right, and we got opening day booking for this cruise, and $7,000 cheaper for a balcony cabin. So
yeah,
that is going to be one advantage price wise.
Yeah.
I know these are expensive cruises. I know that.
This cruise is amazing, though.
It is.
Dave and I were talking about it 5 months ago. We weren't planned to be on this ship. We weren't planned to be. We had no plans to be in Europe this summer, and God, we are so grateful. My son, so Blake is 9 now. He is doing amazingly well. He is loving the port excursions. He's loving seeing all the things. When we were in Rome, he was like, this has been on my cartoons, like on my shows. Like, he has seen them. So some people are like, you don't want your kids watching TV. But he's learning about the world through TV, and then he's getting to see it in real life. And that, I think, is going to be so impactful for him for life.
And he may not remember this cruise particularly, because we talked to Alex, like some of the cruise, the Norway cruise, and he doesn't necessarily remember it. But what he does is it imprints, that travel idea, and now he loves traveling. He loves going to other places. He knows that the world's a very big place. There's a lot of different ways to do and see things like that, and I think that's one of the main reasons why we love traveling, is to get out there and experience and see that there are people ride donkeys up a hill in Santorini.
People ride donkeys up a hill, or you take a death road to get up the hill in Santorini. Both options.
Or that we had an amazing guide that took us to Athens, and that culturally you can relate actually all of the mythology and the history of Athens to the Marvel comics. So,
oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, Poseidon and Aquaman and everything like that. He did a great job going back and forth. So, fun way to learn the history with kids along the way as well. So,
I love it here, and I hope all of you listeners, as many as possible. I know it's so expensive. Our onboard account, and we prepaid our gratuities, have never been higher than it's been on this trip. It's an expensive trip, but man, the memories that we're making, what do they say, core memories or whatever?
Right,
this has been it for us. We are loving it.
That's huge. Well, I guess as we finish up with this one, we need to do one more tomorrow.
Okay.
Because we are going on an ABC tomorrow, Adventures by Christy. Andrew and Alex are expecting you to be standing outside in front of the ship with the Welcome Creasy family to Naples.
I don't have such a sign. I should find a piece of paper, right?
We're going to make one for you tonight, and then we'll get a picture of you holding it up. But we're going on Adventures by Christy tomorrow.
Yeah, so tomorrow when Dave and I were in Europe on a European cruise like 12 years ago, I must have been married, so 11 years ago, we went and did Naples on our own, where we took the subway to Herculaneum. We went and had pizza. We're going to try that again.
Sounds perfect. All right, so one last question before we get out of here. What are you going to do for the rest of the day?
I don't know. I think a lot of nothing.
I love it. That's what Anthony said earlier, too. He said that's his favorite part of the cruise is nothing.
I know. I already have so much work sitting in my email for when I get home for both businesses that I think I'm just going to take advantage of not being able to do much.
Well, I guess that'll finish up this one, and we go.
What are you doing today?
What am I? We're gonna go see. I think we're gonna go see Lightyear, or we might go see the new show now. I don't know. See what the kids want to do at 6:15. But in between now and then, I'm gonna go run, and then do a whole lot of nothing.
Good. Blake's gonna go build a volcano or something.
Perfect.
Shortly. So.
Well, we better get out of here so you can get him to do that.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will be back in either Naples or afterwards in Naples. Maybe we'll do it at the pizza place.
Oh.
How would that be? A little bit
Loud.
crazy.
We'll have to see.
We'll see how it goes.
We'll try at some point.
All right. Thanks, guys, for coming back and taking a listen. We'll see you soon on the next snippet.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, DCL podcast fans. One last snippet with Christy, and then Wake and I are going to be doing one more before we get off the Disney Magic here in Civitavecchia after our 9-day Greek Isles cruise. And she had a couple thoughts about the internet she wanted to pass on quick in our snippet section.
Yeah, I have to go get ready to get off this ship, but I wanted to... So this ship has the new internet. The internet that in theory is supposed to be on the Disney Wish, and they're doing a test here, and they said it's going to be the same. They have 3 different levels, and the prices will vary depending on the sailing. Our levels, it was $12 for like being able to go on social media, basically. $12 a day. You could buy it for any 24-hour period you wanted. So like one particular sea day, we just bought that plan.
And that's per device, right?
It is per device. There is a discount for less devices, and you can log in and log out. So you can only be logged into one device at a time, but Dave and I were able to share that plan.
So if you had 2 kids, they'd have to share it if you bought just one day for one device. Yeah. Okay.
And then there's like a middle one for like $16-ish that gets you email plus the social media. And then there's the $36 people, $36 a day one that they call Premium Surf. Does not get you Netflix or Hulu, but does give you YouTube. And Dave actually used the YouTube and said it worked great. $36 for 24 hours, and it's garbage. So, except for the YouTube, it is not worth. I don't need YouTube ever, frankly, but I definitely don't need it on my cruise. But I was hoping that the streaming or the social media element would have been faster. But it's like Dave described it as they unlocked probably certain levels so that when you had the very slow internet speed with the beginning package, that speed is going to be the same throughout for that level that it unlocks. Does that make any sense?
Yep.
So when I bumped up from 12 to 36, it never got faster. We did that, Chad from our Patreon group, because I had messaged everybody to say, oh my God, this internet's so bad. He's like, well, what is the download speed? So we did a speed test, and it was like 2.16 or something, blah, 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 whatever letters come after that. I mean, that's not even like any speed. That's like dial-up speed. So I would go to load a picture. I'll start with this. I would go to load a picture, and it would take like 3 seconds for a picture to load, like in Instagram. And then I went to the DVC website because there was something, they came out with Top of the World Lounge opening, and I was trying to figure out what the parameters of that is. I was in their premium internet. The DVC site is in theory a site we can get to for even no internet access because they unlocked that. It took, I kid you not, 1 minute to open that webpage.
Wow.
Their own webpage on the ship.
Which you would think that they'd allow you to use that for free pretty easily. But
You'd think it would work.
And it would work.
And then we had to do our Wish check-in during this cruise, and thankfully Chris did it for us, for my family in California. We could never log in to the DCL website because once we're in the app, we couldn't use the app because the app has us on this cruise until we get off, and because we're on their Wi-Fi. So I couldn't access like the app to access the cruise. And so I had to go through the website, and I could never get to the page that says login. It never opened on $36 day 2 internet and their own system. So anyway, just want to let you know it's not very good.
So your results may vary, but I guess be wary. I guess don't come in with big expectations.
Any expectations.
If you're sailing on the Wish or the Magic anytime soon.
It is not Royal Caribbean's Zoom or even their basic internet package at all.
The good news on this cruise, though, we switched plans over to T-Mobile. I'm not going to say I'm a huge supporter of T-Mobile, but T-Mobile gives you basically free cellular data and cellular data throughout Europe and the world for the most part. And we were by land a lot, so I was able to just use that, and that worked fine.
And he didn't pay. I had to pay $10 every time I wanted to, for 24 hours, every time I wanted to log in to my internet. I basically only bought excursions and internet this trip. And drinks.
Maybe a drink or two.
Yeah, drinks, excursions, internet. That is literally the only charge on my folio.
Well,
and on my credit card.
And remember that's the one more tip too about the folio. Make sure you download it.
Oh yeah, good call. Yeah, because they don't put it on your door anymore. Once you're off the ship, you have no access to it. Oh, I can't get to my phone. You have no access to it, and so you can email them afterward. But it's much better to just take either screenshots or download, because the download goes to some like weird notes file on your phone that usually I can't find. But if you just take a screenshot, at least you can have that.
Yeah, they're turning the music on. We're up here by the Cove
So
Cafe.
it's time
7
to get
o'clock,
going.
the music comes on, and it's time for Christy to catch her plane. So, Christy, it was super fun sailing with you, Dave, and Blake on this.
Oh, such a blast.
Yeah, and we will be talking to you once you get back, and we'll see you hopefully in a month on the Wish.
Yep.
All right,
Bye.
cheers. Goodbye, everybody. Well, hey, DCL Podcast fans. It is the last day and our last snippet from our 9-night Greek Isles cruise, and with me is Anawik.
Hello?
We are just about ready.
Buongiorno, should I say?
Buongiorno. We are back in Rome, or Fiumicino, getting ready to head to the airport. We've got a hotel booked there for the night, and we're going to go into Rome, get some pasta, pizza, maybe some coffee, wander around a little bit, and then head back home tomorrow. But overall, what are your thoughts about sailing the Greek Isles?
I've loved it. Just loved every minute. It's very hot, and it's a port-intensive cruise, and there's lots to see and lots to do. So they're decent length days off the ship, but I loved every minute of it.
And I think the one thing that it's hard to say this to somebody because everybody's experience is different as far as what you want to do, but because we've been on the ships enough times, we feel like we've seen a lot of the shows and everything else, so we don't feel like obligated to necessarily do that. So sometimes we got back from a couple excursions and we love just going up to relax up by Signals, maybe jump in the pool, have a beverage before dinner, and that was kind of a more relaxing thing to do than to come back on the ship and run around and do all the different activities. And so because we've done that before, in some ways sometimes I felt guilty that we weren't really doing anything, but I think we picked something each day.
We did.
Yeah, so it was kind of like
yeah,
so I guess put that in your expectations when you come here, because if you try to do everything over a 9-night cruise, you're really going to wear yourself
out. It's definitely a more port-intensive than ship-intensive cruise. I feel like the shorter sailings and maybe some of the Bahama Caribbean itineraries are more the type of cruise where you do focus your attention and your efforts on the goings-on on the ship. And there was still plenty of things going on the ship on this cruise, but we focused our energy off the ship, and then when we got back, it was just time to cool off and relax a bit and head to dinner.
Yeah, and I mean, the Magic is just our favorite ship by far.
Yes,
the Magic
for sure.
and the Wonder, the smaller ships, the adult spaces up there, I think are our favorite spaces. It's just bigger, the pool's bigger, and I don't know, it's just a comfortable ship to come back to. So, just a couple quick questions here. What was a highlight that maybe surprised you that you really enjoyed?
Oh, surprised?
Or just a highlight that you really enjoyed out of this 9-night sailing?
Man, I don't even know. I can't even put my finger on what was the favorite thing. I was thrilled to be back in Greece. I love the water, so I felt glad that we got to, the excursions that we did, we got to be in the water. Actually in the water almost every day. So I really appreciate that. I love the Mediterranean. It's it's just gorgeous, and I love the history and the people, and it was great to be back.
The views are just stunning. The sunset last night, and then we saw dolphins. Andrew saw dolphins.
We did.
Yeah,
we did.
That was kind of cool. I think mine was just the fact that I didn't realize how... There we go.
Oops.
It's about time to kick us off the ship.
Right, exactly.
Disney Magic guests, may I have your attention, please? This is the final call for disembarking the Disney
Final
Magic.
call. So we're going to finish this up
Local
quick.
Customs and Border Protection regulations require that all guests disembark the ship at this time via the gangway located on deck 3 midship. Please have your Key to the World card out and ready to be swiped off the ship. Once inside the terminal building, you may be required to provide a proof of citizenship for the inspection by Customs and Border Protection. Please do not forget to drop off your comment cards in the boxes provided next to the gangway and outside each of the respective restaurants. Be advised that no fresh fruits, vegetables, plant materials, meat, or animal products may be brought off the ship. If you have any of these items, please discard them in the amnesty bins as you disembark. Once again, this is the final call for disembarking the Disney Magic, as local customs and border protection regulations require that all guests disembark the Disney Magic at this time. Therefore, we do ask any guests on board to please make your way to the Deck 3 midship gangway immediately. We thank you for sailing with us on board the beautiful Disney Magic, and wish you a safe and pleasant journey home.
Well, there you go.
So I will say that we have now officially checked off a random box on my Disney Cruise Line to-do list. I have wondered what that last announcement was and have wanted to be the last ones off, and now we are going to be.
We're going to be pretty close. We're definitely going to be pretty close. So we'll wrap it up with just a couple of final thoughts, I guess. Mine kind of surprised is I was surprised at how, and I've said this I think on a couple of the snippets, how small the ports were that we went to in Hanya and everything like that, easy to get into and out of. I knew Dubrovnik was that way, but I really like that aspect of sailing in the Greek Isles, and I think that we may be back again next year.
We're in discussion
on that. So either that or possibly a Western European sailing. The Disney Dream is going to be out here next year. It's going to be sad to see the Magic not out here.
Definitely.
After so many sailings that we've had on her over here in Europe. But excited to see the Dream out here as well for people to try something different. And I know we've talked about this on our show, and it's kind of been slightly reported out there that they are hinting at going to Australia. But I can tell you that several of the crew members, and that's as good as I guess you can get on it, but a lot of the crew members...
It's a crew member rumor
as
well.
It's a crew member rumor
as
as well.
Say that.
And let's just say that they're thinking about, trying to get over to the Wonder so that they could visit Australia. So that'll be exciting when that finally comes out. Well, sorry to leave it with that long kind of ending there from that announcement, but I think we better get off before they kick us off.
Right, exactly. Before our children leave us,
yeah,
too.
It's been a great sailing. We love the Mediterranean. We love sailing over here to Europe,
Yep.
and I hope that you and your families get an opportunity to do that soon or when it works for you, because I don't think that you'll be disappointed.
Nope, definitely not.
All right, well, thanks for following along with us on our sailing, and Christy and I think Anthony will be back, and we'll be talking about our port excursions and a couple of the different aspects of sailing in Europe. So thanks for coming back and taking a listen, and we'll see you soon on the DCL podcast. Goodbye from Rome, everybody.
Adios.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.